Hello, everybody. Today we're going to discuss a popular way that many people attempt to attain financial success. I know this channel is about personal contentment and success and health. This will be an illustrative thing, though. It's connected just because so many people equate financial success, having a lot of money, with being happy in life, and that's not true. But if you're poor, if you don't have much money, you don't even have to be poor. But if there are things in life that you need that you don't have the money for, it's very easy to just think, if I had more money, my troubles would go away. I can't disagree with you. Having money does help, does take away some troubles. On the other hand, if you're not healthy within yourself, having money magnifies other troubles. And so the Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. Well, what is money? Money is just the power to get what you want. And so it's the love of power that's the root of all evil. And we've all met people that were power hungry before. And I think we can agree that it's not healthy being around power hungry people. So today is kind of looking at a specific way that people use to try to get financial success. And we're going to talk about why it's unhealthy. But we can use that to more broadly apply it in our lives. All right. So there's better and worse ways to attempt to be successful. And we're going to briefly discuss the three separate socioeconomic classes real quick. And before I say anything about them, I want you to know that for a lot of my life, I've been in the poor class, the working class. I'm currently in the middle class, but on the very lowest rungs of it. So I know what I'm talking about the attitudes that are at those levels, the lack of knowledge at those levels. But I'm not doing it by looking down my nose at anyone, because I get it. I've been there myself, right? So with that being said, let's jump into this. You got your lower or your working class. They have the least amount of wealth in our society. And for finances, they usually work for someone else in manual labor jobs, repetitious manufacturing jobs, low-level management positions at like retail or fast food chains, or they might live off of government assistance. So that's the lower class. The middle class has more wealth and usually lives a more comfortable lifestyle. Usually, not always. They tend to have higher levels of formal education than people in the lower class do. But the main thing, they tend to have a greater understanding of how society and businesses work than individuals in the lower class do. Their occupations, middle class, can range from being skilled professionals to working in management to being business owners. They're pushing their envelope on what they're capable of doing. I'm going to use the word comfort zone, right? You got to get out of your comfort zone to grow. So if you're in the lower class, moving to the middle class, or if you're in the middle class and you want to move to the upper class, and we're talking just finances here, we're not talking personal health. But if you want to move beyond where you're at, you have to be willing to get out of your comfort zone. And so people in the lower class, they have a tendency to work. And when they're done working, then they want to go relax and just spend time doing whatever they want to be doing. They're very consistent consumers. You got to give them that. But the thing is they have the least amount of freedom occupationally. They're told you have to work this shift. You have to work this overtime. You can only take these days off, but not these days. It may be paid time off. It may not be paid time off. They're limited. They're always being talked to. Some young college kid might get hired in at a company and come in telling people that are in their 50s or 60s what they should and shouldn't do and scolding them like they're their children, right? that's not a healthy interaction. But with that being said, if you're in the lower class, those are just going to be the jobs that are available. They're the lowest paying jobs. That's why you're there. By definition, you're in the lower class because the jobs you're doing pay the least amount of money. And so if you want to get out of that, you have to be willing to get out of your comfort zone and do something beyond what you're already doing. If you're in the middle class and you don't like where you're at, you have to be able to get out of your comfort zone and do something beyond what you're already doing. So anyway, so the middle class, like I said, they tend to have a greater understanding of how society and businesses work than folks in the lower class do. And they can be skilled professionals, that's what I am, or they can work in management, or they can be business owners. I'm also a business owner. The thing is the formal education bit is not as important as understanding how businesses work and how our society works and having a willingness to get out of your comfort zone. So it's knowledge plus a willingness to take on risk. That's what helps you grow, whether it's personally or whether it's financially. The upper class has the most wealth. They don't necessarily have the highest formal education, but they do tend to have a greater understanding of how society and businesses work than the folks in the lower classes do. They also tend to have better social, business, and political connections than folks in the lower classes do. Elon Musk is a prime example of this. He's got a couple of bachelor's degrees. That's it. But the man has an understanding of how businesses work. And so when he sees a need, he gathers together some folks to figure out how to fulfill that need. And as soon as this organization, this business he started, starts fulfilling that need and it starts to generate income, he'll turn around and he'll sell it. That's how he got his financial start, right? And then he used that wealth to build on to create even more wealth. And so he's not the most educated. And per IQ, he's not the most intelligent. He doesn't have the highest IQ. But he has an understanding, he has a knowledge of how things work, and he uses that knowledge. And he also uses his relationships and his connections. All right. So I want to recap, and please don't take this disrespectfully if you're in the lowest class. If you're in the lower class, the lowest financial class, folks are there because they don't understand how to get out of it. And also, they have to be willing to get out of their comfort zone. They have to be willing to invest in themselves to achieve more wealth. People in the middle class, you can't just stay happy with your 9 to 5 and want to move and achieve more wealth. You have to be willing to take the time to invest in yourself and get out of your comfort zone to achieve more wealth, to achieve more success. And that is what the upper class really seems to understand. They look at themselves as investments, or they look at different things as investments, and they don't mind pulling the extra hours. They're not like, you know what, I'm not going to work overtime unless you pay me time and a half. Well, again, the whole freedom versus safety thing. I don't want to work extra unless I'm getting paid extra. Well, that's a safety thing. Like, I don't want to work overtime unless I'm getting compensated. The upper class, they'll work overtime whenever. And most of them are salary. It's not like they're getting compensated. But the thing is they don't mind because they realize this is building up. This is investing in their future. So the higher up in the higher the financial level an individual tends to be, the greater their thinking is different. They look at things as long-term investments instead of short-term gains. short-term gains. So the lowest class is like, I work today, I want to get paid a week or 2 weeks from now. That's just the way it is. And they're thinking I do this now I want this. Now I do this, now I want that. Well, that's safety, but safety will not get you out of that. But unfortunately, here's something that people do. People in the lower and middle classes, they play this game of life a little bit different than the people in the upper class does. But I'm not going to do an episode on class struggle. What I'm doing is categorizing our society, and you can see where you fit within society. If you're frustrated with where you are in life right now, look at where you currently are. What class are you in? The higher the social class that you're in, the more control you have over your life, the more autonomy you can have. However, to increase your autonomy, you must increase your resilience to life's unexpected disappointments. To do that, to increase your resilience, you've got to plan and get out of your comfort zone. And to plan, you have to understand things. You must plan for growth and success. It will not just happen on its own. We love the Cinderella stories because they're just that. They're fairy tales. And we like it because it gets us success without us having to work for it. We want to grow. We want to achieve. We want to be better than where we're at now. But if we're not willing to work for it, to plan for it, to risk the chance that we might be wasting our time and our money, if we're not willing to do that, we're not going to grow. We're going to look at playing the lottery. Let's look at playing the lottery. Historically, more lower income individuals play the lottery than the higher classes do. The poor class plays the lottery more than the middle or upper class does. And not only that, but they spend a greater percentage of their income. This shows how big of a lack of knowledge there is in how to healthily achieve financial success. They're wanting their Cinderella story. So more people in the lower class play the lottery than the upper classes do. And when they play, they spend a greater percentage of their income. The middle class is next in both how many people play as well as what percentage of income. How come you think the upper class plays the lottery the most or the least frequently, and they spend the least percentage of their wealth on playing the lottery? Why do you think that is? It's because they've already figured out how to achieve financial success. They're not pinning their hopes on just the luck of the draw. And there's a reason the middle class doesn't play it as much as the lower class does. Is because they're already starting to understand the big picture more. And they're not willing to risk their hard work money. They're not as willing to risk their hard work money for something that guarantees them an almost 0% chance of success. It's the lower class. It's the ones that are working so physically hard and getting paid so little, but they lack so much understanding of how to truly financially succeed in our society. And so to them, it's just like, I'll just throw this money at the chance that I might get out of this position here. And obviously, I know that not everybody plays the lottery. And if you don't play the lottery, don't take it like I'm knocking you, okay? But what I'm saying is it shows these differences in awareness, these differences in knowledge. And I don't want you to take it as a judgment thing because, like I said, for many, many years, I was lower class as far as financial income. I didn't understand how to make more money. College seemed like such a big barrier. All these different things seem like such big barriers. And I'm like, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that. It's just too much. I can't do it. I just wish that I could have more money. And I'd be angry and resentful at people that had more money. I'd be angry and resentful at them. And I'd be like, oh, they don't really deserve that position. They're just, they just backstab their way into that promotion, or they did this or they did that. And that's the general attitude of the poor classes, is looking at the people more wealthy and saying, yeah, they don't deserve it. They didn't work for it. And they don't really. Well, statistically, the people making more money just understand how to make more money. They have the knowledge and they're willing to invest in themselves. And I want you to take that and apply that to yourself and your own life. You can achieve what you want to achieve. But quit looking for the Cinderella story. Realize if you're currently not achieving what you want to achieve, study, gain the knowledge on how to achieve it. And just have to admit to yourself that either you are willing to get out of your comfort zone and work for it, or you're not willing to get out of your comfort zone and work for it. And if you're not willing to do that hard work when nobody's around, when nobody's paying you, just accept that you're going to stay where you're at and try to be content that way. But if you're like, no, I can't stay content this way. There's things I have to do. There's things I have to achieve. There's things that I have to attain. Then just accept that you're going to have to get out of your comfort zone, and you're going to have to risk time and investment in yourself to grow. There's a passage of scripture I want to read. Matthew 25:14-30. Jesus, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to summarize it. Jesus had a parable of the talents. And a wise man, he was going somewhere, and he called 3 of his servants, and he gave each of them some money. And he said, hey, I'm going on a trip. I'll come back. I've given you money to continue business dealings, right? So I want you to take this money and I want you to invest it and I want you to grow it. And so 2 individuals, they went and they took the talents. Now, talents in the Bible was money, but it could also mean gifts or whatever else you have, abilities you have. So they took it and they invested it and they grew the wealth they had. And then one person took what they had, and they were on the safety end of our spectrum that I talk about. And he said, oh, I don't want to lose what I have, so I'm just going to save it. And he just sat there and saved it. And Jesus said that this business owner came back and he saw the 2 individuals that had invested their money. He's like, y'all are awesome. And he promoted them. And the one that had just took what he had and just saved it and didn't do anything with it, he took what he did give him and gave it to the one that had made the most with his investments. And he fired the one that had just saved it, that had not invested it. And he's like, no, I wanted you to grow what I gave you. And if you won't grow it, what I give you, then I don't want you working for me. And so Jesus is bringing this concept of whatever you have, quit playing it safe. Now, a lot of folks, especially on the poor end of the spectrum, they tend to think, oh, save, 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 and that's being wise and frugal. Well, Jesus is like, no, don't just save, save, save. Invest. Grow. Whatever you have, get out there and risk it. And risk it. And just keep pushing. And don't risk it by something stupid. And I said the word stupid, yes. It's stupid to play the lottery, right? Don't risk it in something stupid. Some get rich quick scheme. Don't do that. No, invest your time, invest your wealth, invest your resources, invest your intelligence by learning. How do other people succeed? How do other people attain success in this area or that area? And then invest in yourself and follow that. And that's what we need to do. And so don't play the lottery in life. Don't sit and wish that things would just go better for you. Don't just sit around and wish that perfect job would come along. No, get out there, get out of your comfort zone, push yourself beyond what you've pushed yourself before. If you think wisely and plan wisely and act wisely, you will get success, even though you'll be uncomfortable while you do it. You'll figure it out. And if you fail, don't just wallow in your failure. Get up and do it again and again and again. Right? Where I'm at in my life, I could stay comfortable just working for my employer, but I'm not content doing that. I'm working on myself. And so I'm doing different things like this right here. I'm going to keep pushing myself out of my comfort zone. I'm going to keep pushing until I figure out what works for me so that I feel I've got the freedom and the success that I am contented with in life. And so it's a process. It's a growth. It'd be awesome if I'd just been born in upper class and was just raised growing up being inundated with, well, this is this and that's that, and here's the connections. And it'd been cool if I'd just been born in upper class and just lived in upper class because I was just there. And so I had that knowledge, but I don't. And so I'm working my way. And I don't even really care about the financial status as much as what I'm achieving in life, right? And so in life, we could all wish that we'd been born into a perfect, healthy family that knew everything, that had all the wealth, and that you could pretty much just float through life at the level that you're at. Well, if you're watching this video, you probably weren't one of those people. And so suck it up, buttercup. If you want to get happier with yourself in life, get out of your comfort zone. But don't do it foolishly by wasting a lot of your wealth on some Cinderella story like the lottery. No, spend your time when you're not working, studying on trying to figure out what makes you happy and content, and then wisely planning to achieve that success and then fulfilling that success. So, I'm Matt Langley, and this is Resilient Autonomy. Remember, if you have a question or a topic that you would like me to do an episode on, or if you would like a free in-depth assessment of your personal situation, just email me at resilientautonomy@gmail.com. That is resilientautonomy@gmail.com. Have a great day, and God bless.